Okay, so today we're going to go over the business types of entities that you can start and create in Illinois to help protect yourself when you're dealing with real estate transactions. As you see here, there's the 5 most common types: the sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company, corporations, and cooperative. Sole proprietorship is exactly how it sounds. It's a single person forming a business entity. That person is responsible for all the company's profits and debts. This does not offer any separation or protection from personal or professional assets, which means that you can personally be held liable for anything that goes wrong with the proprietorship, and you could be sued for your personal assets as well as the business assets. Partnership is the next one. There's 2 types. There's a general partnership, which is an equal share with the partners that are in the partnership, or there's a limited partnership where one person has control of the partnership and the other person or persons contribute and receive only part of the profit. In a partnership, it is owned by at least 2 or more individuals, and the partnerships carry a dual status as a sole proprietorship or limited liability partnership, depending on the funding and liability structure. Each type of entity needs to be set up appropriately for the needs that you need to have it for. So either do substantial research beforehand or seek advice from counsel so you know which one to be better for your needs. The pros for a partnership is that this is an ideal for anyone who wants to go into a family business or with a friend, like running a restaurant or a similar type agency. This allows for the partners to share the profit and losses and make decisions together within the business structure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I had a message saying someone couldn't hear me, so I just wanted to make sure. The business and the owners are not separate from the entity. So again, the partners can be solely and personally responsible for any incident or any potential liability that has been brought to the partnership. This could mean that one owner, if there's more than 2, could be then responsible for some other partner's responsibilities and actions. It is very important that people understand that this does not protect you from civil litigation or liability, and you could cause irreparable harm to your personal assets if not done properly. The next type of corporation that we're going to speak about is the limited liability company. This is the type of structure that we recommend the majority of people set up. It has the most benefits that are allowed in the corporations. The limited liability company is a hybrid between a partnership and a corporation. However, unlike a partnership, the company and the person are separate, and you are not going to be legally or personally responsible, or your personal assets will not be at risk in a limited liability company if set up properly, which will help protect you and your family from any liability. The LLC allow owners, partners, and shareholders to limit their personal responsibilities. So you want to make sure that you are setting this up properly, and you want to either speak to an attorney or do substantial research to make sure that you are going to be okay and that you are not going to be at risk. The advantages, again, of a limited liability company is it offers a much greater flexibility than a sole proprietorship or partnership. It does not have any personal liability. The limited liability is more like a corporation. There's pass-through taxation like sole proprietorship or partnership, so you won't have as many tax consequences. However, you do have to register in the state where you intend to conduct your operations. And that can become very costly depending on what state you are in. There are different types of LLCs. There are single member LLCs where only one person is the member and manager, and there's no need for a resolution letter for conducting business. Generally, however, I've done several real estate transactions where I have single member LLCs and the banks or lenders still require a resolution letter because they don't understand the difference. So you do want to make sure that you are working with an attorney or someone that has experience with this to make sure that your language set up in your operating agreements are going to be enough for a lender or a bank to hold you as the sole member. Member managed is the other type, is a management is vested in the members, single member LLC streamlined. There are multiple different functions to your members, and they're all listed below on the different types of authority and levels that they can be had in this within the structure of the business. That will all be laid out in your operating agreement for the LLC. That would also need to be filed with the state. There's also a series LLC where you can set up one LLC company and have multiple series from that company. So you can have one that's stated ABC LLC, and then you can break it off into ABC Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, and so on, so you can have multiple entities within that LLC. Each series will require separate paperwork for the purpose of the states. However, there's no liability or obligations in the other series, so while they're classified in the same series, they do not stay together when it comes to liability, so it does help restrict that and does help protect the other assets from those companies within that series. I did just see a question pop up, and a resolution letter is a letter that provides authority to a member of the company or LLC or partnership to allow them to conduct whatever business they're trying to conduct. It has to be signed off on all other managing members of the LLC in order for it to be valid. The next type of business to speak about is corporations. Here, the law regards a corporation as an entity separate from its owners. It has its own legal rights, independent of its owners, and can be sued. It can sue, can be sued, and sell property and sell the rights of the ownership in the form of stocks. There are different types of corporations that you can set up that are listed right below. We will go through each of those in a moment. The difference between the corporations and the partnership and the LLCs is the corporations require a lot more paperwork and are very intense and require a lot more due diligence when setting them up. They are a little bit more complicated, and I do always recommend speaking to an attorney and not trying to do this one on your own. They are very challenging and need to be done properly in order for it to be done correctly. The C corporation is owned by the shareholders and are taxed as separate entities. Any gains or profits made by the business are distributed to the shareholders to be taxed twice. You're unable to pass losses through the shareholders, and it is good for business, but the drawback for the shareholder who wants the ability to write off losses. The S corporation avoids the double taxation, much like an LLC or partnership. They do not pay taxes on corporate level profits and losses passing through the entity level. When the profit passes through, they go directly to the owners instead of the entity itself. Owners have limited liability protection. It's all going to be set up through the paperwork that you have set up through your attorney, what you would be responsible for in an event there is debt or a lawsuit. The B Corporation, also known as the benefit corporations, are for-profit entities structured to make a positive impact on society. The non-for-profits exist to help others in some way and are rewarded by tax exemption. They often do not make a lot of money and are given different benefits than the other types of corporations. The closed corporation, typically run by a few shareholders, are not publicly traded and benefit from the limited liability protection. A cooperative is owned by the same people it serves. Its offerings benefit the company members who vote on the organization's mission and direction of that corporation. Things that you need to consider when setting up your business that you are choosing to do is the financial needs of you, your partners, your family, and anyone that is financially dependent on you. The risks associated with each of the different business structures and the ability to grow within that business structure. Once you have that business set up, it is extremely difficult to switch your structure once your business is registered. So you need to choose correctly from the start in order to avoid issues going forward. When it comes to real estate and investing your money through an LLC or other type of corporation, the S corporation is the best entity to structure for flipping a property. This allows you, the investor, to avoid self-employment, Social Security tax, and a portion of the profit earned from the flipping. One new thing that we can now do in Illinois is with the LLC, you can have an S Corp election for a single member LLC that works the exact same way and has a lot less demand to set up the corporation if you do it through the LLC, but provides the same benefits for the S corporation. When it comes to buying and holding on to a property, the best type of company that you can have is a limited liability company to buy and hold as an investor for your property. When you buy and hold the real estate, it is considered a capital asset, and the primary goal is to buy and hold investors is to achieve rental income and long-term capital appreciation, which is best suited for a limited liability company. It offers capital gain tax rate, depreciation deductions, installment series method for gain, and tax-free like-kind exchange under the Section 1031 for the code. The main points to remember is the entity structure impacts how you can run your business, and each one has to be set up a different way. You want to match your legal structure to your business needs. So the tax liability, management, and the expenses are all things that you want to consider when setting them up. The most common real estate entity is the limited liability company. A partnership includes pass-through taxation and personal liability, and a business plan is the best way to determine the structure. A simple way to remember all of these and to remember a simple phrase is to always KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Do not make this complicated. If you do not know and you do not understand how it is supposed to work, seek legal advice. Do not try to create it on your own, and do not try to go through this process without having legal help to help you through this. Simple questions that have been asked from numerous presentations that we have done. And when doing rentals, how many rental properties per entity? We typically tell people to limit it to 5 to 7. This will allow your business, specifically when we speak of these as an LLC, to gain a lot of equity. However, you do want to make sure that you do not hold too much in a single corporation, because that corporation itself can be liable and you don't want to hold too many assets in that corporation. So we do advise people to limit it to 5 to 7. You can open up a new one at any time. You can choose to open up when you hit that 5 or 7 mark, or if you would like to open up an entity before then, it is your personal choice for that type of choice. If you accidentally put a contract under the wrong LLC or corporation, do you have any options? Yes. When you are doing a contract specifically for real estate, as long as you do not waive attorney review, you will have that option to change it. The attorney that you work with will typically include language in any attorney review letter that gives you permission to change your name throughout the process to allow you that flexibility and be able to do that any point in the process. The key thing for that is do not waive attorney review when signing a contract, and to make sure that you talk to your attorney when sending them their contract to make sure that they are aware of what your intentions are with the property. And if you are going to think of changing the LLC, the name to an LLC or corporation. When it comes to real estate and personal liability, all of these companies structures, the LLC and corporation, however the partnership and sole proprietorship do not, they do offer the ability to not be personally liable. However, if you mingle your funds, so you use your personal assets to purchase something with the company or use it to do anything that can construe a commingle of the funds, you could then become personally liable for that, or it can pierce what's called the corporate veil and streamline up personally to the main owner of the company. So it is very important that each LLC or each corporation and each partnership have their own bank account. Do not share money between them. If you have to, for some reason, do that, you need to use it properly and put it off as a loan and then repay it back to the company that you borrowed it from. If you do not do this, you open up your LLC and yourself to personal liability or other LLCs to other liability that they should not be responsible for. Which goes along the lines of, can money be used from different accounts if one is short? We try to recommend people do this as limited as possible. If there is an emergency and you need to do that, again, show proper documentation and prove that it is just a loan and make sure it is paid back as soon as it can be. Documentation that you need to keep are receipts or anything that will show what you've utilized the money for. Can attorneys or people find your assets? Yes, they will find your assets. You cannot hide them. If people have brought you to court, they will try to subpoena your records and they can dive and find them. It is not worth trying to hide them. Eventually it will come out and just costs everyone more money in the long run trying to hide what they don't want other people to find. And then I do see a bunch of questions, so I will get through them all. I did go over what a resolution letter is, but for anyone that didn't hear, it is a letter that explains to a bank or lender who is able to make a purchase for the property or undergo a contract for the LLC or corporation. The next question I have is from Jeanette. If you own 5 rental properties, what would be the difference whether you put each of the properties in one LLC or having them in a series LLC? So if you have 5 rental properties, that is something that we would recommend keeping into one LLC. It provides you less financial strain to have to create different accounts and have to register different businesses with the state. However, you can choose to put them in a single LLC with the series and have each one in its own series. This will limit the liability that each one has. However, it may not be the most economical for your business and may cause a little bit more headache than necessary for those. We don't recommend doing one for each property. It becomes a lot more. You have to have bank accounts for people to pay rent. Anytime you need to hire someone to go help manage that property has to come from a different account. It creates a very big burden on everyone that is involved.
How much it costs? To start.
And then, Jeanette, did that answer your question? I'm assuming that did. So Norbert, the next one is, can you repeat what you mean by can an attorney find your assets? So if you are trying to hide your assets, meaning you don't want anyone else to find them, with technology the way it is these days, it is very hard to hide your assets. There's going to be a trace. The internet is a very easy place for us to search, and it is going to be found by an attorney. They will subpoena your records and get access to anything that they can think of to find your assets that you have not willingly given up. The next question I have is, how much does it cost to start an LLC from Easton? You would want to double check on the website for any state that you were deciding to do this in. Each state is different. And if I quote a price today, it could change tomorrow. So the best place to check is the Secretary of State on Illinois to verify how much the filing fee is at this time. They do raise. Unfortunately, anyone that's living in Illinois knows that prices never stay the same and everything just keeps going up. It never goes down. The next question. Norbert, did you understand my answer for the assets with attorneys? Can you explain a little bit more than what your question is regarding that so I can better answer that for you? Or if you want to unmute and just ask it, that might be easier. And I do see your other question regarding wholesaling deals. We do recommend an LLC for that type of deal.
Hi, Ashley. Norbert here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thanks so much. Really educated presentation. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So the first question that I had was, I think, yeah, there you go. So it says, can attorneys or people find assets? How and what are some of the ways? What does that mean? I didn't understand what that meant.
So people try to hide what they own, so they are not, their personal assets aren't able to be found, or their assets within the business aren't able to be found. Like a bank account or properties that they don't want other people to know about. Say you're going through a divorce. However, with the internet and the ability to find your assets more easily these days, I do not recommend doing that. The attorneys, we have a way to find them. We can issue what are called subpoenas, and you can end up responsible for attorney fees for other people if you are found that you did not be truthful with your information regarding your assets.
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay. So you don't recommend people trying to put LLCs under other LLCs just to make the process difficult for somebody to find who exactly own assets?
As long as you are not trying to hide the LLC, if you are trying to make it more difficult, that is okay. We do recommend that be a series, because I have clients that I think I have one that has up to 14 series in a LLC, and so that is very challenging for people to figure out which series it belongs to. But at the end of the day, it's just going to cost more time and money in court to have someone track down your assets if you are not openly giving them, specifically in a divorce case. I see that almost every day. People try to hide their assets and it does not work. We issue subpoenas, we take depositions, and it just ends up costing more time and money in the long run.
Oh, I see. Okay. And my one more question is, can you talk about LLCs being opened in the state in which you're trying to do the business? Can you have an LLC open somewhere else and then you're doing business in the state, in the interested state?
You can, however, we do recommend doing it within the state you're going to be primarily utilizing it in. Each state has different types of requirements for their LLCs that they would require and what need to be done there. We are just specifically generalizing this to Illinois. So if you're going to be primarily doing it in Illinois, we do recommend, to avoid any conflict or confusion, to set it up through Illinois.
Okay, thank you.
And then you did ask about the wholesaling, and I can't remember if I answered that or not for you, but we do recommend an LLC for those as well.
Oh, okay. So the question that I had was, because you just showed, you show fix and flip, that can be an S corporation or a corporation in general, and then the buy and hold could be an LLC. So I was wondering, for wholesaling, and most people start as a wholesaling and then move over into the buy and flip and fix and things like that. So if I understand correctly, first thing is, which corporation or which business structure would you start with the wholesaling, and after that, what will be the next structure to jump into after you finish with wholesaling?
So I recommend an LLC if you're going to be doing real estate. That provides the most flexibility. You can set up the series through your LLC. You can set up a sole member LLC, which allows you to do an S corporation, which is your best for flipping. So when it comes to real estate, our general practice is setting up an LLC for any type of real estate transaction that you're going to do. It's just within that LLC bracket, what type of LLC do you want to set up?
Oh, I see. Okay. So you can start with an LLC, but then you have a series which is under that LLC, but is some form of S corporation also?
Yes. So a sole member LLC can have the advantages or an election to do a S corporation within that LLC, which is what we would recommend for anyone that is doing a flip of a property.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the answer.
Yes. Does anyone else have any questions?
Well, since nobody has a question, I'll just continue then.
No problem. Go ahead.
So I guess maybe you recommended 5 to 7 in an LLC. Is that for buy and hold? And also, why 5 to 7?
We want to make sure you limit the amount of assets you have within that LLC, so you do not have too many assets within one to become liable for any debts or types of court filings or civil cases in court. It is just to simply limit the liability on the corporation.
So if I have a multi-unit that already cost me millions, would you recommend that just be on a single LLC on its own?
No, so you can have up to 5 properties, even if they have multiple units. However, I mean, if it's a big building like a hotel, you would want to put that in its own. But if it's something that only has 2 or 3 units, you could keep that by, with a few other properties, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Hi, this is Marion Williams. I have a question. What are the disadvantages of having a single member LLC?
I personally think those are the best ones, so I'm not going to really give a lot of disadvantages to those. I think those are the easiest for when you're dealing with real estate transactions. You don't have to provide a resolution letter. There are less hoops to jump through. And it is typically amounts to cleaner closings, in my opinion. I see that those have the smoothest transactions. Those are what I personally recommend. So I don't believe there's many disadvantages.
This is Jeanette. I have another question.
Okay.
So if you, well, let's say you're going to do a wholesale and then you put the property on there. Well, now when you get rid of the property, it wouldn't be considered under the LLC, or how will that work?
Correct. Once you have sold the property, it is not part of the LLC anymore. So then you can replace that with another property in, if you're trying to keep it to that 5 to 7 that we recommend, then you have that ability once you've sold it off to then replenish it and bring another one into that LLC.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Hi, Ashley.
Yes.
My name is Marley Easton. I just have another question. If you were to set up an LLC, how long would the process take to set up one? As far as does it take a week or a few days or a couple of weeks? How does that process work?
So that all depends on the structure of your business and the attorney that you utilize to do that. We can set them up. It typically takes one very lengthy phone call and then an in-person visit. That usually takes about a week to get everything generated. And then the filing with the state, unfortunately, I cannot tell you how long it will take. We have some accepted within a couple days and some take weeks. Illinois has not done extremely well with the technology and advances that other states have done. COVID has not helped smooth along the process, so I cannot answer how long it will take to file. I wish I could. But like I said, we see anywhere from a few days to a couple weeks. So probably somewhere right in that middle. I want to give you maybe a 10-day frame once you file it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So pretty much it varies, from a couple of days to like a couple of weeks.
It really depends on the luck of the draw when the person that is reviewing your LLC or any type of your documents, how their speed is and what their efficiency is like.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Ashley.
I believe that was Angel speaking. Go ahead.
Hi, yes. I put some questions in the comments, and just to kind of branch off of what they were saying, do you get proof in the meantime, though, while it's processing, that it is in process if you were looking to utilize the proof of that being in process for any other prospective endeavors that you're looking into?
Can you repeat your question?
With the process and not, kind of narrowing it down, how long the process takes for that to go through from start to finish.
Okay.
Do you get some type of like confirmation that it's in process until
Yes.
it's completely finished and you receive the paperwork, so you can kind of show people like this is in process?
You can, however, you're not going to get very far. Most lenders are not going to allow you to borrow money until it is set up. So we recommend doing that prior to getting into a contract, so that way you don't have any issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, I went to the most recent 3-day class with the program and things that they have going on. I thought that having that paperwork for the in-process would be of assistance and some other endeavors. But if you could let me know, I'll just ask you then, since I'm off of mute, what I put in the comments is there any higher positive aspects to having an S corp versus an LLC?
There are. The S corporation has different structure, and it allows you to avoid double taxation. However, with an LLC, if you are a sole member LLC, you can elect to set up an S corporation through your LLC, which is how we would recommend doing it, because then it limits your personal liability and provides a better structure for real estate transactions.
Okay. So if I was looking to do something like that as soon as possible, you would still recommend what you just said, doing the LLC, and then
when setting up the LLC, it has to be a sole member LLC with an election to set up the S corporation. So when you set up that LLC, you have to file it with the intent to elect to choose the S corporation.
Okay, and that's better than having them be their own separate entities of one or the other?
You can create separate entities, however, it may not be the best suiting for you if you're not going to have, if real estate is not going to be something that you have 100 properties in. If you are just going to have a few, the LLC will provide better benefits, because within that LLC you can then hold more properties and not just that S corporation one. So you can utilize it for multiple things versus just the one.
Would there be any cons to having them not be such a separate entity and building one off the other?
For the S corporation, if you're not going to be doing flipping, there's no need to create that extra burden on yourself. So that is the primary use for the S corporation, is to do a flip.
Right. Well, I'd like to leave my options open for both building a portfolio and utilizing flips.
Then that might be something that definitely would, for at least your first LLC, to set up that way so you can have that election. As I stated at the beginning, once you've set up your LLC, you can't go back and change different aspects like that. So that would be something that you'd want to set up right away.
Okay, so make sure to mention that. Okay, and then when you mentioned the rates, I did have a question about that, because I did recently check the Secretary of State, and when inquiring about the pricing for LLC series, I went to check out and it said something like 500, but so many other people were saying that can't be right, because they were only paid between 200-300.
So when it comes to the prices, I don't memorize them. I defer to the website, so that way everyone always has the most accurate information. They can change their rates at any time. So what they have today could be different tomorrow. I can't make them keep the same pricing, so I always advise people to go on and double check when you're intending to file. I do not see that they change them very often, but it's like the court. As soon as I tell people they're not going to change, they're going to. And then I don't look like I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, just because everyone that I've approached that's already in this market, like on a regular basis, said that the pricing that I found recently just can't be right. Like there must be something off with it. So I just kind of wanted to gauge if you've heard, you know, kind of the same pricing around this time frame or not.
The best advice I can give is it's never going to go down. Illinois is never going to lower their prices. So if they're, you know, once they've been raised, they're not going to go back down, and there's only a chance for them to raise more. So if you're looking into doing it, I always advise people to do it sooner rather than later to avoid any price increase.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. David, I see your question of what is a good standing certificate and how do you obtain one? A good standing certificate is requested through the recording office where you record your LLC or corporation, and they provide that to you for purposes of real estate transactions because your lender would like to see a copy that you are in good standing with the state, and you just simply request it online. Are there any other questions?
It's Jeanette again. So the question is, if you have a corporation, not a corporation, but if you're in business with like a relative and you're owning property, would you recommend would you be able to do like a single LLC, or do you have to do the other one?
No, you would not. So a single LLC is for one member only. If you are going to have multiple people in there, you would have to set up the non-sole. So it's the member managed LLC versus a single member.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Does anyone else have any questions?
Ashley, about that, what the uploading was asking, can you start one, an individual, but add later because you really can't make changes? So how would you adjust that if you want to add, you know?
Angel, you're
people?
breaking up a little bit and I can't hear you all the way. Can you repeat that?
Because you were saying that once something is started, you can't change it. So if we start it's sole one or individual, like the lady was saying, how do we go about if you do want to have members or partners, you have to set up a whole different one? Or?
You would create a new LLC or a new corporation. It is very difficult to change especially when it goes from a sole to a member managed. You would just want to create a new LLC.
Thank you, Ashley. We do have a question in comment section. Rob, he is asking, does your organization act as a registered agent?
Yes, we do. If our clients need that, we do offer that at our law firm.
Okay, perfect. By the way, are you able to share your contact details to our group so that
Yes.
we can reach out to you? Okay.
And then if anyone would like, I'm happy to email a copy of the slides to you as well.
Sure, that would be
Yes,
great.
please. Yes.
You can send it to support email, so we'll be able to share that to the attendees today.
The best way to get a hold of me is via email, and then I can set up an appointment via phone with you if necessary. Let me see. They said just to email it to who to be able to share with everybody?
Yes.
Who do
Okay,
I
sounds
email it
good.
to?
Oh, you can send it to support at ChicagoDealVault.com. The one that you sent your invitation, the one we sent you
Oh,
invitation.
okay. Yes, I can do that so
Okay.
that way everyone can have a copy of the presentation.
Okay, perfect. Do we have other questions before we wrap up the webinar tonight? Okay, so I believe we don't have other questions. Please feel free to send an email to support at ChicagoDealVault.com for your increase in questions. And tonight, we are very much thankful for your presence and for your expertise. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge today, Ashley. I'm sure our investors learned a lot from the valuable learning you shared today. And surely we can apply all these learnings. So thank you as well for sharing your contact information. We do apologize that Hugo was not able to attend the webinar today. He's currently in Albania, and I believe it's around 1 a.m. for today. That he just sent us a message he wouldn't be able to attend, so we do apologize for that. But in the next meetings, we would encourage him to be joining. Thank you so much, Ashley, for the very great presentation. And for everyone who are not members of Chicago Deal Vault yet, we would love to invite you to be a part of the Chicago Deal Vault membership program. We do have a trial access program that we offer, the 30-day trial. You can check on the link in the comment section. We have shared the link to avail the trial access. Also, we would like to invite you to our inner circle groups. We do have 2 inner circle membership groups: cash flow inner circle that focuses on cash flow, uh, uh, cash flow, and as well as with wholesale inner circle that focuses on wholesaling. So these classes, we do have classes for these inner circle groups every week, and you will have your own portal account for the Owners Inner Circle membership. So we also posted the links for you to check on how you're going to sign up and to check on what it is all about. So again, I would like to thank you everyone for joining tonight's webinar. And again, Ashley, you've been a great help to us tonight, and enjoy the rest of your day for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ashley. Have a good night, everyone. Goodbye.